I'm Alicia, and I am new to this whole social media video thing. Um, so I might be, you know, coming off as a novice, which I very much am. I am a school psychologist, previous teacher, a middle school teacher in English, previous special education aide, previous substitute teacher, and special education aide, like I said. Um, and I want to share with you my journey in discovering and figuring out that I am someone who likely has ADHD. So I am kind of sharing my experience as a mental health clinician and school psychologist who supports students and families. And I've even studied to, provide counseling to adults as an adult who has her own mental health challenges and is going through her own healing journey. I don't think this is unique to anyone. Well, not to, most people, because there are a good deal of individuals who provide services in mental health who do have their own mental health journey and struggles or reason why they've joined the field. But I do want to share my experience to kind of illuminate and make it public that, hey, we're humans too. We have our own life experience and struggles. And while that may seem like it discredits us, I think it makes us stronger clinicians and able to connect and relate to our clients a little bit better. It kind of guides you to figure out what specialty you want to take and what way you want to support individuals. So I think it's a special thing to share. For me, my background, like I said, I started as a special education aide. I went to UC Davis and I studied school psychology kind of as a default. It just kind of naturally fell in my lap because it was something that I kind of resonated with, and I was very interested in psychology and the way people's minds work. I minored in English, and after I went to UC Davis, I kind of went backwards and I went to Chabot College. So I went to a community college after Davis for a few months, I think about 6 months or so, to figure out what I wanted to do. I took a police fitness class, I took theater, I was in a play, and I was really trying to figure out, okay, you have gone through 4 years of school, but you still don't know what the heck you want to do with your life. And so, in that journey, I kind of really opened up as a person. I was very shy and almost, completely mute and very quiet in high school. And being in the play opened me up, and I was really connected to the theater group, and we kind of became a family. And I really learned how to connect with people a lot better and found myself in different ways. So during that time, I was in the middle of being in a play. I got a job as a instructional or intervention specialist in Oakland Unified School District, and that was life changing. Really was. And intervention specialists, you work directly with students who are in the gen ed setting, who are special needs, but are being included. So I modified instruction. I provided small group instruction. I pulled students out to take tests in a quiet space, but also modified their assignments, made sure that they understood we're paying attention in the gen ed classroom. It was a beautiful program. I was very lucky to work with some amazing full inclusion teachers who truly believed and demonstrated and showed me that all students can learn. We had, students with Down syndrome, students with autism, students with developmental disabilities, and they were just amazing working with the gen ed students. And the gen ed students were amazing in accepting and knowing that their special needs students were part of the community as well. So that's really where I got the core and the strong belief that I still hold today, that all students can learn given the tools and the proper supports that they need. During that time, I was doing well, but I think and I felt that I needed more and I wanted to have more agency and be more in charge of my own journey. I applied for a master's program in education to get my credential to teach. I got my clear credential to teach English, single subject English, and that allowed me to teach English in the middle school or high school setting. I decided middle school. Some people think I'm crazy, but it was a really great population. You know, kids in middle school are discovering themselves. They're still young enough to respect and listen to you and don't think they know everything, but still old enough where they're becoming themselves. And it was really a great experience. I also taught AVID, which is, you know, getting students ready for college, helping them learn note-taking techniques and get a little better at academics. Um, and then after a few years of teaching, I wanted to kind of change it up and focus a little bit more on the special education population because I noticed some of my students in English that were significantly struggling and they needed a little more support. So I took my experience in my background in special education and I applied to be a school psychologist. Now, it didn't start out as smoothly as I thought it would. Throughout school, elementary school, I did, and high school and college, I struggled in math. I didn't understand at the time that I probably had a little bit of a learning disability because I did very well in academics in general. So when I applied, they looked at my transcripts for college and they saw that I had gotten a C in statistics. I don't know how I got a C. But I got a C in statistics, and I knew very little on statistics because I did not do well while I was at Davis. So they wanted me, before they accepted me into the program, to take a course on statistics. And I took the course specifically designed for social sciences and school psychologists. It was an amazing course. I learned a ton. Very interesting, really cool professor at Chabot College. Got an A. And I let the team know at Cal State East Bay, in charge of recruiting school psychologists, that I had done it. I'm really devoted. I want to do this. And they accepted me, luckily. Very rigorous program. Cal State East Bay is nationally accredited. And when you graduate from their program, it's a 3-year program, you can, you're eligible to get your NCSP. And during your learning and your program, the 3 years that you learn, you can apply for it. I did. And you have to do so many units of professional development, training, and all that to maintain your NCSP over the years, even though you are a school psychologist. And it keeps you on top of like the new practices, what's going on, you know, keeping current because things are always changing and different practices are evolving. So I'm grateful to remain an NCSP nationally certified. And like I said before, there is a debate of whether or not it is beneficial if you get paid more. Is there anything that makes you like top tier if you are an NCSP? I mean, some say it does make a difference, some say it don't. It really depends on where you're at, your location. I get a little extra stipend working in my school district because I have it. I mean, so that's a little pro. It's not anything that's like life changing, but it gives me a little extra cash, so why not? And I know that I am practicing with the most current, up to date standards. So I feel confident in my own abilities as a school psychologist with that certification as well. So back to my own mental health journey and being a mental health provider. Like I said, I struggled with math. But even back in elementary school, it was very clear to me that I had some social emotional mental challenges and struggles that my peers and friends were just not having. And it was very clear to me early on, like, there's something going on in me that is not the same as others. And I think I was a little annoying that way. Like, oh, there's something wrong with me, guys. And they're like, no, you're fine. And I mean, if my parents had their own mental health support, I think that I might have gotten through that a little bit better, but I significantly struggled. I had really cool friends. I was in the cool crowd, even though I was a little weird. Um, but then I wasn't really quite able to connect with them as well as I wanted because there was this barrier and feeling that there was something a little off, and I struggled in different ways. In addition to having challenges with math, I would daydream a lot. I was quick. I would pick things up really quickly, and then I would want to jump ahead, but I had to stay in pace with what the teacher was doing. So a lot of times I would be daydreaming, drift off, and they would have moved on, and I was like, "Oh shoot, where am I? What's going on?" And I'd have to catch up. Because I strive for excellence, and I was a really hard worker, and I was the oldest child, I was able to keep up in general, but I did not learn as much as I think I should have throughout elementary, middle, and high school. Um, I know that I could have probably been valedictorian if I wanted to, or if I had the focus and attention, motivation that I needed. But I was struggling a lot with anxiety and depression because of the things that I noticed were a little harder for me. And as a result, I was very distracted. I was in honor roll and honors classes, but like I said, I had to work hard and it was not as easy, or I could have done better. It could have been easier for me. Um, Even though I was in honor roll classes, I was in Gate in elementary school. When I went to Davis, I had to do remedial English because my essays were not well organized. I was not able to articulate and say what I wanted to in a clear way in my writing and essays. So I took that remedial English class, and it kind of taught me the mechanics, how to write essays in a very clear and concise way and do it kind of like a math equation, which made it a lot easier. And I ended up minoring in English. Hey, believe it or not. So even though I struggled, when I was given the supports that I needed, I did a lot better. That being said, I did not figure out that I might have ADHD until I had already completed my master's program in school psychology and counseling. And even after that, I knew I'd gone through depression. I had some issues because my parents, were hoarders and they had their own ADHD and different symptoms that made, things challenging for them. It wasn't until, a few years in school psychology that I'm like, oh, Alicia, you have so many things similar to these kids with ADHD. Huh? Your childhood kind of is textbook. And I think I fell through the cracks on that way because when it comes to girls and how they present, it is a little different than boys. I mean, there are certain societal expectations that girls adhere to that maybe kind of mask those symptoms that are more prevalent and more obvious in boys. So for me, I did like rock when I read, and I was kind of mocked by my friends, so I stopped that. And I would need to fidget and move around a lot, easily distracted, daydreaming, quick, but then also like I couldn't sit still and focus. But because I was so concerned about others and how I looked, I masked a lot. People pleaser, all those kind of things kind of contributed to my masking. And I fell under the cracks because I was gate and I was in those higher classes too. Fell in the cracks in that way that I did need a little extra support. I mean, I was surviving, but I could have done better, and I was struggling a lot. Um, so as an adult, I leave the stove on. Like if I'm making beans and I'm making something that requires a lot of time, I leave the stove on. And I've done this twice in the last 6 months where I left the house and I came home to a smoky house, not burnt down, luckily, but my dog was traumatized and the fire alarms were going off and my house smelled terrible for weeks. I also, leave my phone around different places. If I don't see it, it doesn't exist. Like little things in like my fridge. Oh my gosh, I've so much of my food has gone to waste. And work. I am lucky that I have federal timelines that I need to meet. but I procrastinate. And I mean, I am really good at my job, but I could be doing things a little bit better. Um, I don't know if I should admit that. So it's something that I've always internalized and I blame myself for. Like, you could do better. Why is it so hard for you? There's something wrong with you. But I mean, yeah, there's something going on in my brain that's a little bit different than others, and that is okay. So, this is part one in learning that, hey, it's okay. You have ADHD. I was recently diagnosed, actually just last week, by a psychiatrist after the evaluation process. And I wanted to share that process with you because I'm sure there are plenty of other people out there. It's kind of trendy now. I know it's trendy, but if you need the support, it's worth going through that journey and figuring out how to navigate that. For me, I have Kaiser Insurance, and I told my therapist my concerns and my suspicion that I have ADHD. She kind of asked me some questions at that moment, that one would ask to try to figure out, if there is the possibility. And it seemed like there was a good chance that I had ADHD based on, my childhood experience currently, experience in school. And then she gave me a referral through Kaiser Psychiatry for an evaluation. They contacted me and gave me some rating scales. There was a waiting period because I guess they're kind of backed up. There's quite a few people that do want and need to be evaluated for ADHD. Um, the person that connected with me gave me rating scales that I completed for myself. And there was also rating scales that they wanted from another person who knows me well and ideally knew me in my childhood. Once those rating scales were completed, a psychiatrist connected with me in order to kind of have an hour long um, like intake interview and kind of see what's going on, review my background. I shared everything I just shared with you and some that I didn't really want to publicize on social media. But pretty much being honest about my experience as a kid, having it evident and prevalent in childhood is important. If it's not really there, there's no history of it. It is likely environmental or temporary in nature, or it might be due to something else. Um, so I was diagnosed last week. ADHD with especially an attentive type, less so the hyperactivity part. I do need to fidget, have something in my hand all the time. I move around. I can't sit still for a movie. And I interrupt others. I'm really impatient. But my type is more towards the inattentive type. Um, and so they have added that to my medical record. I just met with my primary doctor today and gave her the update. I have an appointment to meet with another psychologist who is going to help me kind of figure out the meds I want to take. The psychiatrist who diagnosed me, asked next steps, like ideally, what do I want? Because you don't have to take medication, and in some cases, you may not want to because it might be disruptive or it might not be appropriate for your needs. For me, since I do significantly still struggle as an adult, in different ways, like just with daily living and being able to function, like I could barely do chores. I have no routines. I have very little self-care routines. I'm not able to like stick to new habits. I just want some life satisfaction. I need to be able to have a clear head in order to just feel better. I wanted to experiment at least and try out some of the medical options. So that means, in addition to exercise, which I've already been doing now for a couple weeks, I'm going to be trying out different medication, to see what might work. And what is important that I'm going to share with you, someone who has learned firsthand in my training as a school psychologist and um, as someone who has friends, as clinical practitioners, is that the there are many different types of ADHD medication, and one size does not fit all. So it is important to work with your psychologist, make sure that you're communicating very clearly and monitoring how you're feeling on certain medications. And if after a certain amount of time it does not benefit you and does not work for you, that you can change it up and make sure you have tried it at least for a while. It usually takes a couple months for it to kick in effectively, but knowing that you have the option to choose or try other medications as well, and it's not just one type that you have as an option. So that being said, it's still new to me. I still haven't fully comprehended or even adjusted or accepted that I have the diagnosis of ADHD. It's weird, kind of. I've always suspected it and have been down on myself and internalized my problems. So it's something that I will be adjusting to in the next couple weeks and months. And this is part one of a multi part series where I'll be sharing that experience as an adult who, like, it's going to take some adjustment. I've been living this way my whole life, and figuring out that things can be different is going to be super interesting. And I am here to share that with you. Also, going to share the experience of kind of using my own experience to see how it can help others. Now, I know that a lot of people maybe want to keep that kind of thing private in terms of like their professional life. For me, it's a little different because I'm a school psychologist, and I can maybe share, like, hey, through personal experience, this is what I'm going through, this is what you might need, this is what, and even sharing with parents of my students who do suffer with these challenges, different tips and techniques that work. And I mean, I wouldn't always be jumping in like, oh, in my experience, oh, this is what I do. But being able to kind of connect in this way on social media too, sharing my own experience and maybe relieving someone of the stress or anxiety they might have, or if they haven't decided to go forward with trying to figure that out, knowing that, hey, it's not so bad, it's not so scary, it's something that you could look into. I'm not saying that it won't be environmental, maybe it's only temporary in nature, maybe it's not ADHD, but I want to be able to share my experience as someone who works in mental health, who struggles with their own mental health, who's surviving, who's making it their own journey to kind of figure out this world we live in with some differences, some neurodivergence. Thanks. Entirely psyched. I will be following up with part two, part three, possibly part four. I don't want to go too long with this, but different updates as I figure out this journey as someone with ADHD who is a mental health provider.